You know, when you've been using these budget and mid-range phones, you kind of start to accept the little quirks, the occasional stutter, cameras that are just okay, and the build that's not always the most premium. Then one day, you switch to a proper flagship and it's like someone's opened the door to a whole new world. And that's exactly what happened when I picked up this Honor Magic V5. It's not just a phone, it's an entirely new experience. So today I want to take you through my experience going from budget to bougie as someone who has not used a book style foldable before. I don't have access to them, unfortunately. So this isn't going to be a comparison with other foldables like that. It's just going to be my experience using the Honor Magic V5. If you're interested, stick around, subscribe to the channel. If you're interested in more videos like this, let's explore. So the first thing that hit me when I held the Magic V5, this thing oozes quality. The matte finish catches the light perfectly, it's soft to the touch, and you can just tell the build is premium before you even turn it on. And while I have held a couple of foldables in some shops, the hinge on this one is one of the most satisfying I've ever felt on a foldable. Smooth, solid, no wobble. That click when you shut it is basically therapy. And even when closed, it's slim and elegant, not that chunky brick vibe that some of the older foldables used to have. So design-wise, this is where the Magic V5 really shows its bougie side. It feels expensive because it is, but not in an over-engineered way, it just feels refined. The hinge is definitely engineered to last with a nice balance between resistance and smoothness. It stays open at multiple angles, which is great for watching videos, hands-free or taking time shots. And weight-wise, Honor's done a great job and it's light enough to use comfortably, but still has that reassuring heft. Overall, I really love the design of the Magic V5. That camera bump does jut out quite a lot, which of course, when you've got it open and you're laying it on a flat surface, it will rock like a mother. But yeah, overall, a really great design phone, really slim, really premium, as what you'd expect from a flagship foldable at this price point. Really, no complaints over the design. Trying to say display, design, not display. Design of the Magic V5, top tier flagship. And when it comes to the outer display, the flagship features keep coming. It's a really stunning 6.4 inch OLED display with 120 Hz refresh rate. And this is flagship territory all on its own. Colors pop, text is razor sharp, and outdoor visibility is excellent thanks to a maximum of 5,000 nits of peak brightness. But then you open it and it's like stepping into an IMAX theatre in your hands. It's almost 8 inches of OLED, also 120 Hz, super bright and super responsive. Watching Netflix, Disney Plus, or even YouTube videos in this unfolded view is completely different. You don't just watch content, you really get pulled into it. And of course, the question that a lot of people ask is, how is the crease? It is there, you can sort of feel it when you're swiping that way, but I think Honor have done a pretty good job. I don't think they're ever going to be non-existent, if that makes sense, or at least not for a little while, I don't think. But it's not been an issue for me. I've not noticed it. It's not annoyed me or anything like that in my day-to-day use using this phone. You've got a punch hole cut out for that selfie camera there. And of course, you've got a punch hole cut out at the top of the outer display as well. So you've got yourself a couple of selfie cameras. Bezels, super slim around the outer display and of course on that inner display as well. For me, it's a whole new experience. Like I said, I've not used a book style foldable before. So when I first started using this was a really surreal experience coming from someone that's only really used budget phones and just my iPhone that I pay on contract anyway. But yeah, it's a really nice display on both of these phones, on both sides. I've got no complaints, I really don't. And when it comes to performance on the Honor Magic V5, unsurprisingly, it's as flagship as you're gonna get in 2025. Rocking the Snapdragon 8 Elite, and my model has 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage. I think there's a model with a terabyte of storage, but 512 gigs, I think for most people, it's gonna be absolutely plenty. Playing heavy games, smooth, switching between multiple apps is instant, and if you're editing 4K video, not a problem. And as someone, like I said, coming from using multiple budget phones all of the time, the switch is night and day. Everything happens instantly. There's no stutters, there's no slowdowns. The phone doesn't even have to think about what you're doing. You just tap an app, it opens, shutter button on the camera straight away. Zero problems, but I'm not surprised. So yeah, if you are coming from a mid-range phone or a budget phone to something like this, the difference, like I said, is going to be night and day, and I absolutely love it. Now, software-wise, if you've used an Honor phone before, there's going to be a lot here that's going to be very similar than what you'd find on those devices. But the key here with the V5 is its multitasking capabilities, and that's where it really shines above all other Honor phones on the market. Split screen for browsing and messaging, floating apps for quick reference, and gestures that just make moving between apps absolutely effortless. There is a few pre-installed bits and bobs that you might not use, but you can remove those, and once you fine-tune it, it feels fluid and purposeful. Just having that bigger canvas just to edit a few thumbnails and stuff like that for me, for my channel, rather than carrying around my tablet or even my laptop, just having that bigger platform just to do a bit of editing on the fly has been a godsend, really. When I'm at work, if I'm just sat in the car on my lunch break, open the phone up and I can just edit a thumbnail really easily. It's not a necessity having it on a bigger display such as this, but if you imagine using Canva and you've got that big display there, it just makes everything a lot nicer, a lot easier to tweak various bits and bobs. And like I said, the multi-screen thing, I didn't use it a huge amount. I think that's probably because I'm coming from what I've been so used to using. I don't use multiple apps like simultaneously, but for someone who's very productivity minded, will absolutely use this all the time. If I was to continue using this as my full-time phone for, say, the next year, chances are I'd take advantage of the split screen, the multi-app windows and all that stuff a lot more, because I know that it's there and I know that the phone can do it with no problems. But at the moment, I don't really use it that much. But like I said, definitely something that I could move towards in the future if Honor let me keep it, which would be lovely. But yeah, overall, the software experience has been absolutely great. Magic OS isn't for everybody. It takes a little bit of getting used to, especially if you maybe if you come from just a stock Android vibe or iOS. If you jump in ship from iOS to Android, it might take a bit of getting used to. But there's the usual customization options with themes and wallpapers and all that sort of stuff to really customize your phone how you want it. You can have a different wallpaper on your interior screen than your exterior screen, or you can match them or whatever. So loads of customization options, loads of multitasking capabilities, a really great experience overall. And now onto the cameras. You get a high quality triple camera arrangement. You get a 50 megapixel f1.6 main camera with optical image stabilization, a 64 megapixel f2.5 3x optical zoom camera, and then a 50 megapixel f2.0 ultra wide that supports autofocus. The main camera captures sharp, vibrant images with great dynamic range. The ultra wide keeps detail without distorting the edges, and the telephoto genuinely useful with clean results even at higher zooms. Low light performance is strong, colors stay natural, and noise is pretty much kept in check. You get a pair of 20 megapixel selfie cameras, one on the cover screen and one inside, and you get support for 4K video on the rear cameras and on those selfie cameras as well. Using this camera for social media posts and using it for some of my thumbnail shots as well, it's become a really reliable camera. That 3x telephoto camera is not the furthest reach in terms of optical zoom. There are other phones on the market, but they're quite often the slab phones, not so much these foldables. You do get support up to 100x zoom. It's all right. It's relatively sharp. I think the sweet spot is probably like 20, 30. I wouldn't necessarily push it too much further than that. But overall, you get a pretty flagship camera experience. When you're taking portrait shots, you've still got that really annoying skin smoothing, which even though you turn down the beauty modes, it's still there. So portrait shots aren't my favorite on this phone. They've never really been my favorite on the devices, unfortunately, but for everything else, this camera is absolutely fine. And then as for the battery, considering this phone is super duper thin, you get a 5820 milliamp hour battery on this international version. I believe the China model gets a bigger battery again, but battery life on this has been bloody awesome. I've not finished a full day worrying in the slightest about my battery life. I finish normally on like 50–60%. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I don't quote, oh, you're going to get 7 hours of screen on time, because I don't sit on my phone for that length of time in a single day. I don't know how people would find the time to do that. But overall, yeah, if you're a heavy user, you'll still easily get a full day, maybe like a day, day and a half potentially. But if you're a light to moderate user, easily 2 days from this battery, no problem at all. It's one of those silicon carbon batteries as well, which is why they're able to pack a slightly larger battery in a smaller form factor. And then charging, you get 66 watts wireless, 66 watt wired charging, 50 watt wireless charging with a compatible charger, and then you get up to 5 watts of reverse wireless charging for, you know, like your headphones and stuff like that, which I never use. I don't really use wireless charging either. But overall, all you need to know is the battery life on this V5 is absolutely incredible. I'd imagine it's probably going to be considerably better than the battery life on the Z Fold 7. Not had the chance to use that phone, but I would imagine this is going to be considerably better than that. I could be wrong. Let me know down in the comments if you have other experiences with that phone. But yeah, overall, battery life, spot on. So here's the big question for me is, does the Magic V5 change how I use my phone day to day, especially coming from someone who traditionally looks at and reviews budget and mid-range devices? Now, I wouldn't say I necessarily use my phone considerably more because I'm using the Foldable, but I find myself using certain apps more. So things like Canva, going into my YouTube studio just to look at a few bits, just, you know, ChatGPT for fact checking and this, that, and the other as well. I just find myself using it more for that sort of thing rather than just messaging and whatever. That's, you know, probably about the same. For someone that's definitely a productivity minded person, this is going to be a wicked device for you to use. Again, going from, say the Honor 400 Lite, silly question really. It is going to be night and day, of course, but I can use the Honor 400 Lite in my day-to-day with not a single problem. Not even the camera is a main issue for me. So the Honor Magic V5, it does have a place for a lot of people, power users, productivity people. Personally for me, I don't need it. It's a nice to have, obviously, but do I need a foldable? Do I need all that power? No. And I think most people are going to be the same. They don't need all of that. But again, it's just a nice to have. I'd love to try and get my hands on a Z Fold 7. Unlikely, but I'd love it to be able to see how that is in comparison to this V5. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this Honor Magic V5. Is it a phone that you would consider splurging a considerable amount of money for, or are you happy just sticking to lower end phones or flagship slab phones as opposed to foldables? Let me know down in the comments. Subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next video.